Um, Caleb Love has made some timely ones as well in the films that I've watched. Like I said, I think as a team they're playing better, and they've had a pause or two from COVID, so that's kind of disrupted their flow. But obviously Walton's he shoots it really well, just like he did when we were watching him when he was in high school.
Up next, we'll go to Steve Mcgarney.
Thank you. Steve Mcgarney, Associated Press. I'm just wondering, while y'all are in Indianapolis kind of just playing the waiting game, aside from like the usual things, film study, video games, whatever, what are y'all doing to occupy the time, make sure just not go stir crazy while you're waiting these few days?
Yeah, Sunday night and part of Monday, we couldn't do anything. We were quarantined to our rooms other than testing, and all meals were delivered to their rooms individually. Since then, we were able to utilize it. The NCAA has done a phenomenal job from everything I've seen so far. They do have weight facilities or a area in the convention center that the teams can rotate through for different weight workouts. So we were able to do that today prior to our practice. So we were able to get a lift in. And then, like I mentioned yesterday, we had 90 minutes on court. They have 12 courts set up in the convention center. They're all individualized and all secluded from the others, so you don't have any intermixing of teams or anything like that. The traffic flow in terms of people walking or teams walking from the hotels to the convention center is all controlled and individualized by team. And the same thing the weight facility, which is in the convention center. So that's been, that was today. We're still, everybody's in their own room. We minimize the time as a group. We've only done verbal things in terms of North Carolina. With the players, we will do film as we continue through the week, but the staff, obviously, myself and Coach Krabinoff as the scout have dove deep already into North Carolina. So, they've hung in the rooms. We do have a team room here in the hotel that they do have cornhole set up. They've been playing ping pong, things like that they can go down and hang out in there a little bit from time to time.
Jim Polzine.
Jim Polzine, Wisconsin State Journal. Greg, Ben Carlson was dressed last week, and I know there was some footage of him practicing. Just curious, is he cleared to play? And against a really big team, could you use him in a pinch if necessary?
I think Jim, he's missed so much. He's just getting back into contact practicing, and that's even been limited in some regards. He hasn't gotten, he hasn't taken a full dose. He did practice. He was full go today for the first time, really, of getting all the reps and things. Yesterday, we really didn't do a whole lot of contact stuff. Today was live. So I just think he's been out of the rhythm of it for so long that I don't know if that's a good position to put him in, I think, more than anything else.
Next, we'll go to CL Brown.
Hi, Coach. CL Brown with the Raleigh News and Observer. You guys obviously have a very experienced team, but not necessarily a NCAA tournament experienced team because of being canceled last season. I was curious, is there a difference, or is it because you guys have played in so many big games and games with certainly high stakes games even in the regular season that has a carryover to the postseason?
Well, you hope it does. I think that's the one thing about the tournament. It really doesn't matter what you've done prior, because it's only about it's one game, so it's not a series, and that's the thing that makes this. Why that sign, that's the banner that's behind me, March Madness, because it's just the 40 minutes. So regardless of whether you come in on a roll, you come in with rhythm, high stakes, whatever that you've gone through before, it's still about the next 40 minutes, and that's really all that matters, because you're not gonna play well. You don't play well for a stretch, and it's over. You play well, and there's upsets, obviously. We've seen that through the years. So I don't know if it's really, this group even had high stakes games a year ago. So on a run to the Big Ten championship. So it was continue to win and stay in the race. So I think the experience helps you to a degree, but then it still boils down to how you play in the upcoming 40 minutes.
Josh Schaefer, you're next.
Josh Schaefer, Badger 24/7. Yeah, Greg, I was just curious, with North Carolina obviously being a good post team, and they have probably 4 good post players that stand out and a lot of good rebounding. Does that compare to anyone that you guys have seen in the Big Ten when it comes to post presence, or is what they do a little bit different than some of the Big Ten teams this year?
I don't know if it's a whole lot different. Obviously, their numbers jump out in terms of offensive rebounding. I think they get 41% of their misses is what I was told today. So you get a lot of their 10% of their points comes off putbacks. So that's, that we see teams that are like that. Iowa gets on the glass pretty well. Michigan State has done that in the past and gotten on the glass pretty well. So it's a similarity. There's some similar tendencies and traits to teams we see in our league as well, in terms of transition, making sure we're getting guys back, making sure we're getting our defense set, and obviously the ability to minimize second chance opportunities.
Mark Armstrong.
Hey, Mark Armstrong with I'm sure you're aware, Roy Williams has never lost a first-round game, which is kind of a remarkable stat. Now, many of those games, they're obviously heavily favored, but several of them they haven't been. What does that speak to in your mind in terms of how he gets his teams prepared for these games?
Well, one, he's had really good teams, whether he's been at Kansas or at North Carolina. So that's part of it, and obviously he's a Hall of Fame coach. I mean, has he won 900 yet, or is it still in the 800s?
Oh, he's in the 900s now.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's been doing it for a long time, and obviously had tremendous success at both places. But, I think it's a combination. I think it's obviously always having good teams, but also him doing a good job of preparing them and putting in that position.
Next, we'll go to Kip Coons.
Hi, Greg. I was going to ask you about the size too. Josh kind of stole my question, but along those lines, Roy plays a lot of players. He'll go 10, 11 deep. In the tournament setting, does that make a difference having that kind of depth? And how would you coach against that?
Well, we've seen other teams that go deep. Iowa played 11 or 12 before Jack Nungy got hurt. So it probably, it helps you in a position of playing that second game. If the winner advances, if the team with more depth advances with a one-day turnaround, maybe it helps you in that regard. It helps you in terms of foul situations. So I think that's, every program every year is a little different. There's some years we've played 7, there's some years we've played 9. This year I'm kind of with 8, just based on where this group has grown to. So I think it's really about what your team, I think he's got a mix of younger guys and older guys and 4 post players, and I know Kessler's played better here lately and come on. So I think it gives him a lot of options. And but I think it's really, from what each coach or what each program feels comfortable doing. And for us, it sometimes varies from year to year.
Let's go next to Deanna King. Deanna, do you still have a question? While we wait for her, we'll go to a follow-up from Jeff Patrikas.
Yeah, Greg, given the fact that they do have a lot of post guys, in your film set review, do they play 2 bigs at once at times, or what are their combinations that they prefer?
2 bigs all the time.
Okay.
Deanna King, are you there? Would you like to ask a question? Okay, we'll move on to Raul Vasquez.
Raul Vasquez with Badger Blitz. Hey, Greg, I was wondering, with North Carolina playing kind of a more traditional two big lineup, would you guys, and you've talked about kind of reverting to just one big lineup since most teams don't use a traditional format anymore, would you be able to kind of use both Nate and Micah in the same lineups in this game?
Yes, we could. Yep. And we've talked about that and worked with that. So that's definitely a possibility.
We have time for one more question. Are there any follow-up questions at this time for head coach Greg Gard? We have time for one more. Okay, CL Brown, go ahead.
Yeah, Coach, I was just kind of curious. I mean, you guys have been in Indianapolis an extended stay now. How and you mentioned kind of the games that, you know, cornhole and stuff that they're able to play at the hotel, but how are you keeping this from being just a weird experience? You know, I saw the pictures of, you know, the sidewalks even in front of the hotels in Indy being blocked off. And, you know, it just seems like an extreme isolation. I mean, obviously we understand the circumstances, but how do you keep things fresh with these guys?
Well, I mean, the Big Ten tournament was a little different. It was a little more lax. We could leave the hotel. We can't leave the hotel now until we walk to our practice site. We'll practice tomorrow night, I believe, at Mackey. So we'll have a bus ride to Mackey tomorrow night. They have film they can watch on their own. They obviously have school. So that's another component to this that they're taking care of. There was a really intense spike ball game going last night too, some 2-on-2 stuff. So I stayed out of the way. Guys were going to get hurt, or I was going to get hurt if I tried to get involved with that. So that's one of the other things other than the bag game and ping pong. Ping pong table came in today. A spike ball it drew a crowd. It was definitely really intense. I didn't realize some of our players are so good at it and how intense it got. But Trevor Anderson claims he's the best spike ball player on the team.
With that, thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.
All right, thank you, guys.
Up next, we have senior Micah Potter joining us. Good evening, Micah. For those who have joined us since the opening, if you'd like to ask a question, please drop a note in the chat, just letting me know that you have a question. We'll get to as many as we can. And for this press conference, before you ask your question, please identify yourself with your name and your media affiliation. Micah, if you want to unmute, we'll dive right into questions. We will start with Jim Polzine.
Jim Polzine, Wisconsin State Journal. Micah, there's a lot of unique things about this tournament, but one of them is you get to start off playing a game at a Big Ten rivals arena. And it's not a place where this program has had a ton of success, but you guys were just there 2 weeks ago. Is there anything to be said for familiarity with a venue like that?
Absolutely. I mean, I've played there in the course of my career in the Big Ten. I've played there 3 times, I'm pretty sure. So, and I've actually gotten a win there, which is nice. So, no, it definitely helps to have played there before. Obviously, in the history of Wisconsin, like we've played Purdue and not North Carolina. And there's also most of the time been lots of fans in the arena as well, because when there's fans in that arena, especially Purdue fans, it's one of the best, venues in the country from a fan standpoint. So it definitely is nice to be able to have played there before, have the familiarity with the gym, with the rims, depth perception, all that kind of stuff. And it's definitely unique, considering, the circumstances we're in to actually be able to play at a place like Purdue being from the Big Ten. But UNC is a good team. So regardless of how comfortable we are playing at Mackey, we still got to make sure we're prepared for UNC. So yeah, it's nice, but we still got a big challenge ahead of us.
Patrice.
Jeff Patrice from the Journal Sentinel. Mike, I'm just curious, since you've started really breaking down North Carolina, how frequently the discussion has turned to North Carolina's ability to get on the offensive glass and what you must do to keep them from doing that.
Yeah, well, like going through scouting reports and all that kind of stuff, that's the number one thing on the scouting report is their ability to rebound the ball offensively. I'm pretty sure they're number one in the country when it comes to offensive rebounding, and a lot of their points come from that. And I know specifically talking about the ACC tournament, I'm pretty sure, I actually think you may have tweeted it out, talking about the amount of offensive rebounds. I think it was like 61 in 3 games or something like that. So, you know, they're a great offensive rebounding team. They got lots of size. They're very physical inside. So it's something we got to be ready for, making sure all 5 are rebounding the ball defensively, not just the bigs, and making sure the bigs are doing their job with boxing out and going and attacking the ball on the rebounds as well. So, you know, it's obviously a big part of the game. We got to make sure it's an area we focus on, because if you take that away, you know, you have a pretty good chance of giving yourself a good chance to win the game. So that's definitely going to be a key. It's a bit of key of emphasis as we've broken the scout down of UNC, but it's also something we got to do a good job of executing.
Steve Mcgarney.
Steve Mcgarney, Associated Press. Thank you. I was just wondering, your coach was saying just now, you had a pretty competitive game of spike ball going yesterday. I'm just wondering if you could detail either that and also just what are y'all doing to kind of occupy the time? Y'all have already been in Indianapolis a while, and it's still a while until the game, and there's not a lot you can do. What creative things have y'all gone about doing to try to avoid going stir crazy?
Yeah. Well, the nice thing is because of how we're testing every single day and we're not leaving like the hotels, like the hotels are connected to the convention center, and all that kind of stuff. So at least until like we practice at Mackey tomorrow. So at least until then, like no one's leaving the hotels and everyone's in the same bubble and everyone's testing the same way and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So it gives us a little bit more freedom to kind of do that kind of stuff. Plus, you know, obviously being here, it takes away the opportunity to do other things outside of the hotel. So yeah, spike ball has been a big hit. We just got a ping pong table and a foosball table put into our team meeting room. Guys have been taking advantage of that, but spike ball's been the hot one. That's been the more popular one. We've gotten a couple of teams that are pretty good. I know Tyler Wall, Trevor Anderson, our GA Cole Gentry, and then our director of ops, Mark. They've been probably the most competitive out of the entire bunch, and having really good games and being actually really good at spike ball in general. So no, it's been fun to watch. It's been fun to be a part of. Guys have done a good job of, you know, getting out of their rooms with, you know, the amount that they can, with the limitations that we have, and intermingling in the smartest way possible and all that kind of stuff. So it's been fun. And like, yeah, we're in a bubble, but having a change of scenery outside of our apartments in Madison is kind of nice as well. Being in Indianapolis and being in a hotel room and having just a different place to go through this system of protocols that we've had all year. It's nice to have a change of scenery. Mentally, it really kind of makes it different, which is nice. Change is good, especially in this kind of a situation. So that's also been nice.
Up next, Stephen Weiner.
Hey, Steve Weiner from the Associated Press. Wacky question for you, Micah. Everybody knows that the One Shining Moment song. I'm curious, did you ever grow up listening to it, pretending you were in it, hitting a buzzer-beating shot to that song?
All the time. I mean, a lot of people can attribute, March to being one of the greatest times of the year. Like the March Madness tournament is a focal point of American sports every single year. And so if you didn't, I'd be surprised, to be honest. And obviously no one growing up playing, basketball and, once I got to the point of, getting recruited for college and all that kind of stuff, it really became kind of a more real thing. And then obviously playing in the tournament, a couple times is really made it, that much more real. So, yeah, it's definitely something that I grew up thinking about and dreaming about being a part of. And it's still, even, being in the NCAA tournament, well, technically once for me playing, like I was also there with like my redshirt year, and then last year we would have made it as well. So like the kind of reality of being in it, but even like preseason and during the regular season, you still kind of think about that stuff, like being that guy who hits that shot or just being that team that makes a run or whatever, all that kind of stuff is something you think about all the time. And that's why you come to a place like Wisconsin, so you can have that opportunity to make those runs or to make those shots or all those kinds of things. So it's definitely a special time. It's a special thing for all of the teams and the players and coaches that are a part of the, the tournament itself. And it's something that, we're looking forward to hopefully making that run and, making those shots going forward.
CL Brown.
Hi, Micah. CL Brown with the Raleigh News and Observer. When you've watched film on North Carolina so far, what's the biggest difference between them now and when you played against them when you're at that other Big Ten school?
I appreciate you saying that. No, I'm just kidding. So I don't know. Like they've obviously playing their two, and they've had a history of playing two bigs, but that's the biggest thing that stands out to me is their, I don't know, just their dominance with both of their bigs inside. I know they've had a history of playing two bigs, but like the style of play of both has been kind of different compared to what it is now. Both of them are kind of like pound the paint and attack the offensive glass big time. I think they're a little bit more reliant on that this year than they have been in the past. That's not to say that they don't have good guards or good wings, because they have very good guards and wings, but I feel like their go-to is a little bit more getting in inside than it is playing from the perimeter. And that's going to be a challenge for us. You know what? That's what we have to stop. That's what we have to try to take away as best as we can is taking away the offensive rebounding and doing a good job defending inside, because I feel like that's something that they go to on a more consistent basis now. So, they're always a well-coached team. They're always a very, well fine-tuned team, if that makes sense. Coach Williams is one of the best to ever do it. So, you got to give them credit. You got to prepare for, every facet of the game when it comes to them. But specifically, the biggest thing that stands out, as I'm sure Coach Gard told you guys about, was just their, the emphasis of playing inside and offensive rebounding and all that kind of stuff, because that's really, I feel like, where they, get their biggest punches from inside.
Lance Vieser.
Lance Vieser, WKOW TV. Micah, obviously we haven't seen a lot of you and Nate on the floor together this year, but Coach Gard just mentioned that this is the type of matchup where this could happen. How do you feel about that? Especially knowing going in that the game plan involves you having to play well down low.
Well, it's exciting. Obviously matchups throughout the year haven't worked out the best that they could have when it comes to us both playing together, but it's something that we're excited about doing. It's something that, we're ready to do and we'll be prepared to do. But it's another game, regardless of what matchups there are, who we're playing against. The biggest aspect or the biggest thing we're trying to, do is get a win. So whatever we need to do, whether it be coming off the bench, playing together, starting together, whatever, we got to win basketball games. So yeah, we're excited. We're ready to play both together. But it's also something that, going forward, we just got to make sure we're doing our part, with the roles that we're given. And so that's because right now it's do or die. So whether it be playing together, not playing together, we got to win basketball games. So, but no, we're definitely excited about, having the opportunity to have that happen.
We have time for just a couple more. We'll go to Adam Smith.
Hey, Micah. I'm with the Burlington Times News in North Carolina. Just wondering where you grew up, if you looked up to Mitch Trubisky back in the day. And because of that, does UNC have a soft spot in your heart? How do you look at that whole Trubisky angle?
Well, I grew up with Mitch pretty much. I'm closer with his younger brothers because we went to school together in high school at Menor. So I know his younger brother's a little bit better than him, but the whole family we're good friends with. So yeah, it was definitely cool to see him go to UNC and then get drafted by the Bears and all that kind of stuff. But I'll also say this: I have two cousins who are NC State alum, so there's obviously the rivalry there. So it's like, yeah, it was cool to see Mitch, and also Brandon Fritz is another one. He was a tight end at UNC, who also played at Menor with Mitch. So it's kind of cool to see those guys have success there, but also like from a family tie standpoint, we're kind of like NC State's kind of the way to go, which I know that's kind of like a touchy thing or whatever, but no, it's always good to see people from your hometown doing well. And so I don't know if I'd say it's a soft spot for UNC because of the NC State ties that I have. But, it's always good to see people from your hometown doing well.
Let's go to Josh Schaefer and then Kip Coons after that.
Yeah, Josh Schaefer with Badger 24/7. Micah, with offensive rebounding this or allowing offensive rebounds, boards in the offensive glass for you guys, that's come up a couple times. I'm curious, just when you look back at, say, like the last Iowa game, I think they grabbed 12 offensive rebounds on you guys. What stuck out that you guys can do better there?
I mean, there's multiple things. Obviously, getting bodies and boxing out well and attacking the ball well. Getting good positioning when it comes to where the ball's coming from off the rim, the direction of where it's coming from off the shot, and then also where, you know, you can kind of almost predict where it's going to come off of the rim. Doing a better job with that. Obviously, sometimes in bang situations, things just happen. You got to be able to just react. And then also having all five rebound the ball. Sometimes, you know, from a positioning, because of those bang plays, it's tough to be able to react or get good positioning. So you got to have help from elsewhere. So that's all those little things. I mean, I know obviously, like you mentioned, the last Iowa game, there's that flurry that really hurt us there in the second half. And so that's something we got to be better with. That's something that we're really focusing on now, obviously, because UNC is the #1 offensive rebounding team in the country. So that's something that we're really focusing on. And, you know, that's something we got to be able to be physical and be ready to go with. And making sure we're all on the same page, making sure we're doing our work early, and making sure we're attacking the ball when it comes off the rim. So all of the above, if that makes sense, or if that works for as an answer. Sorry, I mean, there's lots of different things that go into rebounding and all that kind of stuff, but we got to do it all because they're the best. So when they're the best, you got to make sure you're at your best.
Kip Coons?
Yeah, Kip Coons with Pressbox View in Raleigh, North Carolina. Micah, I'm interested to know, you've talked about their bigs a lot. When did you first realize how many big bodies they had? And I mean, count is like about 5 guys around 7 feet, and they're not thin. What was your first realization of what you were getting into? And did you look down their roster numbers or see it on film? And I'm just wondering what that reaction was on your part.
Sure. Well, honestly, for me, the biggest thing is, so I went to Montverde Academy. You know, that's where I graduated high school from. And I know Leaky Black and Dayron Sharp both went there. So just having that kind of connection, understanding who's there. But then watching them play Iowa earlier this year, you really got to see how big and how deep they were from a big perspective, going up against Luka Garza. So that was really the biggest thing. Obviously, at that point, we didn't know we were going to play them. But that was the first instance of where I really saw, with my own eyes at least, you know, the depth that they had and the size that they had up front. So, you know, it's when we got the draw of playing them on Friday, it was something like, all right, that's something we're going to have to deal with. It's something we got to prepare for, and something we got to really be able to attack and be able to defend against. So that was probably the biggest thing, was just that Iowa game, seeing them play earlier in the year. And then obviously when we got the draw on Sunday, we found out we were going to play them. I was like, okay, it's go time. It's time to battle inside. So that was pretty much it.
Micah, thanks for your time. Go enjoy your St. Elmo steak.
Looking forward to it, P. Herb. Appreciate you guys.
Get the shrimp at St. Elmo's, Micah.
Is it good?
Oh, it's awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's what they're known for, the shrimp cocktail.
I'm an indie guy, so from back in the day.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We will put the recording of this on the virtual press box, the digital media center that the NCAA is hosting. Thanks, everyone. Good night.